Hey, this is Anney
and Samantha.
And welcome to Stuff I Never Told You, a production of iHeartRadio.
And welcome to another episode where Anney and I have collaborated. So it's going to be fun. And we're talking about friendships. So what else could be more fun than that? Except, yes, it is us and it is me who likes to think things a little pessimistically. But that's okay. You guys know already, right?
Also, just to be clear, we do collaborate often. But the way that our outlines work, we usually have one person take the lead.
Yeah, when I say collaborate on this one, we did separate research and then just slapped them together. And then we're going to talk about it together.
Yeah.
As opposed to like one thought process. Like we both have different thoughts and different angles that we came in from.
Yeah.
This is like
and it's
one
a
of those.
lot.
It's a lot. So, you know what? As we start, I think we've talked a little bit about our meet cute, as I've taught you this word a bit, but I think we should start the show off with how we became such a dynamic duo, because we've talked a little about here and there, and then like there are pictures that mysteriously popped out later that were like, oh, we met before. Apparently your boyfriend that I have never met was in the picture somewhere or was around at that point in time, right?
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah. He was my ex-boyfriend,
yes,
Samantha.
Sorry.
No,
it's been years.
I'm just kidding. Yeah, there's a picture of professional picture was taken at an event where you were working behind the bar, and it was like a Science of Beer event, and I was there with my then boyfriend, and there's a picture of you and I and
exchanging drinks.
Yeah. And later I was like, oh my gosh.
But it was actually Caroline, previous host, who had seen this picture and was like, wait, is this so-and-so? Is this Anney and Samantha? And I was like, wait. And this was after I think we had started the show, right? When we discovered that picture, not the actual picture. So so a lot of this is in part thanks to Caroline, who she and I were close and met through other friends during height girl times of us talking about a dude.
That's true.
Yes. So Caroline and I became friends, and I figured out that she knew Kristen, who I had known through another great friend of mine from Athens, whose wedding I've been in. I know their entire family. So it was such a overlap. But me and you, we met through Caroline specifically. The introduction to you was you and old coworker and friend Sarah coming to Caroline's. She finished her book party.
Yeah.
Essentially. Yes. When she had just recently left Stuff I Never Told You, and you were not quite the host yet, but you were working with How Stuff Works. And we all met. But because I was overwhelmed, I was like, there's too many people here. I got to go. I have a dog to take care of.
Yep.
And that's how you were introduced to me, right? Because I barely remember. Because you walked in. I do remember you walking in because we were on the back porch.
Yes.
And I was trying to make my escape. And I had already been there because I am that person who comes early and leaves early. And you know what? Caroline's the one that taught me that one.
Hey, if it works for you, it works for you. You put in your time.
And y'all had come, because where had y'all been, you and Sarah?
Listen, this is completely true. I was walking back from our office at the time, which is not a far walk from where I live. Our mutual friend Sarah pulled up next to me in a car and said, get in. And I did. And that's how I ended up there. I had no idea.
They came in, the party was already happening, and it got loud. And I was like, I gotta go. Peace out. I gotta go see my dog, which is what you remember from me. Mm-hmm. Is that correct?
That is.
And then because I had met Sarah through Caroline as well, I was bartending with a beer company here, a local beer brewery here in Atlanta, and y'all just popped up, and we kind of reminisced about the fact that we were all there on Father's Day, lamenting together, and all of the bad father tropes and or deaths or things. A lot of tragedy. We really, really bonded over trauma and tragedy.
Mhm.
And we all did the hookup where y'all went and did some touring. And I'm like, Annie's cool. Okay, cool. Why don't you come hang out with me? And then I had an infamous cheese and wine party because I loved having those. This is all pre-pandemic. I think we met in 2018.
Yeah, I think it was 2018. Mm-hmm.
I think you and my partner came around the same time.
Oh.
Yeah. So y'all are like right there. And then at that infamous party is because we had already hung out before when it was announced that you were going to be on the show with Bridget.
Yes. Oh, that's right. We did do that.
Hung out. Yeah, we hung out at Victory. I'm giving you all the lowdown. We hung out at a local restaurant here. Bridget was here in town, so I got to meet her. Bridget kind of forgot that. No worries. And we all hung out, and it was all a beautiful moment. And then you and I kept up with the friendship for a while. Can't remember all the in-betweens, but I was like, yeah, I like this girl. We're going to hang. We're going to be friends. We went to a few festivals here and there.
We did. We did karaoke one time.
We did karaoke. We did a lot of karaoke since then, but we did do karaoke in one of the infamous bars here, a little outside of Atlanta. I think
I've never been.
You'd never been? Was that your first time, really?
That was my first time.
I love it. I think a friend of mine, Dominique, it was her first time too. And she loved it. I was like, this is amazing. Let's do this. This is when I actually did things, y'all. And stayed out past 12. And then as our friendship grew and that infamous cheese party night came through, you and I sat down and talked about the future of the show, me feeling really, really restless with the whole Me Too movement, and people were really upset already as it goes about the word trigger warning. And that opened up into such a conversation that was me being your therapist a little bit, as well as being like, you need more therapy, more than I can offer. Also, let's do a show. I will say, not to say I tricked you, but this was in part to be like, I need to get this girl in therapy.
And you did. I listened to our mini-series we did on trauma. There's an episode.
We did. Mainly because I'm like, girl, you've been through some things and you're not acknowledging how significant these things are. We need to take a moment.
The cheese and wine brings it out of me sometimes.
It does. Well, and I was like, because this is also a part of my problem. And we're going to talk about this a little bit as we talk about the layers of friendship and types of friendships there are and women in friendship in general. But like, I cannot do shallow conversations. That I am going to hone in, ask you a question, find the things that like obviously are things that like pretty deep to you, and then we're gonna talk about it.
Yeah, I can verify that 1,000%.
And then I feel like there are moments that I'm like, I need to back off. So for me to back off, it means like we can't talk at all because my mind cannot let that go. And if I am having that conversation with you, if I'm having an in-depth conversation, that means I'm investing in you. And that means that there's something in this relationship that makes me think that we need to be friends.
I've always appreciated that about you. I don't think that's like...
It's not great. It's not bad. It's not great.
No. I think that's, at least in my experience, and I include myself in this, I sometimes shy away from tougher topics like that because I'm like, I don't know if I can say the right thing, or I don't know if you want to talk about this, but I appreciate that you're a genuinely curious person if it's somebody that you do want to invest in or you're interested in learning more about.
It's something that I can't let go of. It's because also as a thinker on this level of like, if you give me something and then it doesn't make complete sense, I have to unravel it. We're going to have to go through this because I'm like, wait, what type of, and I can't, lingering, that's going to keep me up at night.
That's that's interesting.
I'm going to need to know and I'm going to come back later and ask you.
Yeah. She does follow-ups, listeners.
I do follow-ups. But with all of that, this is the beginning of our friendship, and you being open and accepting of that really developed into this level, learning this like we've talked about this many times, I'm not a podcaster. I'm not a writer. I'm not an editor. This is not what I was trained to be. What I'm trained to be is a thinker, is a questioner, is a person who comes and asks the deep questions, and we work through things. And we don't necessarily find a solution, but we find a moment of like stability. Like that's what I like to do. So when I don't get that, I get a little anxious. But with that, I also really hone in on like injustices. And I want to talk about it to try to unravel at least the reasons. And if there's not reasons, at least what we can do to protect ourselves to a certain extent. So this is who I am. And because you've allowed me to do that, this has felt like an actual like career instead of just a job. So thank you for that, friend.
Oh, thank you.
And I think also like we do so well in like, we're pretty opposites in so many ways.
In a lot of ways, yeah.
But at the same time, we let each other be those opposites. That helps us come together. Like it fulfills the entire picture.
Yeah. Yeah. And being supportive and open to, okay, you want to talk about that? Or, okay, what should we do next? I think that is really important. And it's good to have different viewpoints. I think just even outside of a job or a career with your friend group.
I think we travel really well with that. We've done many travels.
Yes, we have, and we've done well. We've done really good. You're very clear about like, I need my rest. I'm leaving, and I'm very like, have fun.
I'm gonna do my own thing. Like this that's the glory of it all. Like we don't need to be attached, but also I'm gonna support this, and we're gonna go to these things. You want to see all the things of Last of Us? I'm gonna see 4 of those things. You do the rest.
And I will, happily.
And I'm like, yes, okay. But yeah, so with that is our friendship in a summary.
Yeah.
There's so much more, obviously, in the way we get to teach each other and the way we get to grow with each other. And just talking about like what this podcast has become and how we made it ours. And some people love it, some people hate it. We're okay with that. One of the things that we do with this podcast is talk on a broader subject because we find it interesting. And when we look at it from an intersectional ideal, which is so important, and I hope doesn't go away. I feel like even with like the atmosphere that is today, like we talked about some of the things that we are fearful of. Like this is our careers. This is if something were to happen, if someone were to get mad at us, if someone thinks that, our opinions mean that it's a violation of something somehow, that it could go away if the right group or, the wrong group feel like they have a new agenda. But with that, we find that a privilege to be able to have a conversation about this and talk about things like women in friendship. And that's kind of what we're doing. And as a reminder, I feel like we haven't said this in a while. When we say women, we mean all women.
Yes.
Okay? So don't think this is all about just binary gender. We're not about that life. We are talking about intersectionalism and being on a spectrum in many ways, and gender is one of those things. So when we say women, we're saying all women. So go with that how you want. When we were researching, one of the things I was like, let's just get a basics about friendships. What are we talking about when we talk about friendships? And one of the first things that popped up is from our friends, literally one of the first people who made Sminty, Molly Edmonds, had written this article with another co-author for How Stuff Works about friendships. And I was like, well, of course we're going to have to use this because it's already there for us. And they talk of the complexity of friendships in general. So as simple as that word may be, because I feel like people just automatically assume it's a relationship, platonic, non-platonic, romantic even. It is complex about how to maintain and even keep them and why they're important for everyone. So in their article, they interview psychologist Dr. Suzanne Diggs-White, who told them this. She says, true friendships are hallmarked by each member's desire to engage with the other. It's about mutual interest in one another's experience and thoughts, as well as a sense of belongingness and connection. Friendships require reciprocity of admiration, respect, trust, and emotional and instrumental support. And I think that's such a great definition because we don't really get into the conversation about toxic friendships.
Yeah.
Because what we would say, toxic friendships, it'd be the opposite of all of that.
Yeah. I would like to come back and do a deeper dive into that, though, because I was thinking about that. This research actually brought out a lot for me. And I was telling Samantha, I've reached out to friends I haven't reached out to in a while because of it. But one of the things I would love to come back and do is the dynamics of a friendship, the kind of power dynamics.
Mm-hmm. We've done an episode about breaking up with friends, right?
We have done that. I just want to talk about because I feel like even in a pretty solid friend group, there's sometimes still those sort of power
hierarchies.
Yeah.
Mean girl level?
Not necessarily mean girl, but I don't know.
Well, I mean, with I forget Regina George's character being the leader of her friend group.
Yeah.
Type of thing. Yeah, I feel like there's a connection sometimes where they're the central point.
Yeah. Yeah, and just we are going to talk about this. I have a note about this in the outline, but kind of that idea, because a lot of times a friendship they change as you go through life. And it can feel, especially for someone like me who I'm not going to have kids, I'm not going to get married, I'm not going through a lot of those touchstones.
Mm-hmm.
It can kind of feel like in some instances I don't have a lot of the power in that case. But in other instances, I feel like I kind of do. So it's just interesting. It's just something I've been thinking about.
So I would think you are the leader and the powerful one when it comes to when we go to Dragon Con or when we go to events like this. If I go to Disney World with you, you're in charge. You are the woman in charge. But setting up dates with people who are getting married or have children, they are the ones that have to be yes, I'm free these times. But yeah, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, it's just interesting.
But we will come back. And we do address it a little bit, but not completely. You're right. And and back to that article, they go even deeper, classifying specific types of friendships. So not necessarily dynamics, but types, including acquaintances, friends, close friends, and best friends. So they kind of have this pyramid, and this is where it goes from the bottom up. And though I would have thought close friends and best friends were pretty much the same, the difference lies in the depth of best friend marker type of thing, where best friends don't even need to speak to each other and can pick up where they left off. I've always, maybe this is my childhood ideal, but the best friend is you talk to them every day and you must call on the phone in any of the events. But that's not necessarily true. And I will say, I feel like that's the only type of friendships I have because I am an introvert. So you might not hear from me for a week or 2 weeks or 4 weeks or 6 months. But when we come back, we talk as if we've never stopped talking.
Yeah, I have a lot of friends like that. And I think it makes sense because people have their own lives. They're doing their own things. You're doing your own thing. And it's really nice when you get to see each other and it just feels like you're picking up right back where you left off.
Right. And it is lovely. And then for women, there seems to be very specifics that honestly make sense to me. Women look for emotional bond and support. So a little bit different on what they classify and what they need in a relationship and a friendship. So they need that depth, that level of relationships. For me, I do that too. If I need, it's rare that I'm going to ever tell you I need something. But if I do, that means if you let me down, it's hard to come back from that for me.
Mm-hmm.
It you might not ruin it and I'll always be there for you, but in the back of my head, I'll know, they didn't pick up on this. And then that equal reciprocity, the give and take that is similar to yours, that took me a long time to learn. And I didn't realize how important that was until after college.
Yeah. Well, and part of that too is I know we've talked about this and it's different between some of my other friends. But there can be this feeling of, you did this for me, XYZ, I have to do the same for you, which is not always true. Sometimes the XYZ same for you doesn't have to be the exact same thing.
Right.
It can be something that means more to them than, say, if I have a lot of friends who love to give gifts, but don't necessarily love getting them. But I can find a way to, I know what they like, and I can make something that is reciprocal, but not the exact same.
Right.
But it's kind of that care and attention that matters. It's like, I'm giving you the same time and care and attention that you give me.
Well, I think one of the big things, like in college, I would spend money on people. I would go out for people. If they told me they needed this, I'd be there for people. Like all of these things help you move, help you do things. And then I realized they didn't do the same for me. They obviously don't hold me in the same regard. And it's like, at this point, I want the friends that I know has my back as much as I have theirs. And life's too short. We don't all have to be friends.
Yes.
And we can let this go. And I will let that go. I've gotten really good at letting go as of the last 10 years. I'm like, yeah, I'm good. No, thank you. Maybe that's a good or bad thing. I don't know. Also, a mutual self-disclosure, or the more that you share and you discover about each other, you trust each other more. You know, not saying it's completely about gossip, because gossip is not wonderful all the time. But like, there's this level of trust of like, oh, you think that's silly too? Okay. Kind of like the inside joke and understanding your sense of humor. Like, oh, I can trust you in this. Being racist is not the thing. We're not talking about that. If you're racist and you're being racist with your racist friends, you know that you're not going to be my friend. But this level of like understanding and valuing each other, getting advice from each other, being able to like really know that you can trust one another. And again, like, you give just as much as I give. I'm not giving you all my secrets and you're not giving me. Why aren't you telling me things? Tell me about your life. Maybe that's what it is about me and getting to know you. Like, I need to know. I need to know who you are. Going back. And this is something author Danielle Bayard Jackson speaks on in her book, as well as CNN, when it comes to like female friends in general. So she says this: people, or most women, need to know that there is trust and support in long-lasting friendships, and something that happens naturally. So enable to like actually be able to have a true and long-lasting relationship. It's not forcing you to divulge secrets. This is not the Masons. We're not making you write down your secrets and promises. Which, by the way, I just went down a rabbit hole about Masons. Because I wondered if they were part of the white nationalists. It turns out Christians don't like Masons. Side note, sorry. But like, but the fact that it does happen naturally, and it comes in a conversation, whether it's like you bonding over the fact that your dad's dead. I'm so sorry. That's not funny, but it's true.
Hey, it's true.
It's true. My dad is not dead, just so you know. But we were having a moment where like us not wanting to spend time with our fathers because of disagreements and or death did have a moment of like, let's have this conversation. And I know like people who have lost people in their lives and have been able to heal a little bit and use sense of humor. We'll talk about like Dead Dad Club. Like, I've heard that as a reference in Dead Mom Club. Like, all of these things have been something that people have bonded over, and it's kind of just natural, and a friendship may form from that. I know for me, some of the people that I worked with, including you, Anney, but like when I was in social work going through really hard times, we bonded over that. We bonded over the fact that it was really bad and our mental health were not good. It's dark, but it helps, you know. And again, men apparently are a bit different. They're less talkative. It's not about emotional support. It's more about activity with their counterparts. But again, with opposite sex, though, so when a man is friends with women or whatnot, they're more likely to share their feelings and more likely to have that emotional support that they need. That might be an important thing, because they don't feel like they can say it to other men, but they can talk about it with other women.
Yeah. I have to say, I feel like this has been my experience in a lot of cases.
Me too.
I'm happy to be your friend and listen to you, but sometimes I'm like, I really wish you didn't feel like we don't know each other that well. Yeah. I wish there was someone else that...
And it gets messy when you start having a partner. Like, if you have a romantic partner and you are always that emotional support, which we're kind of going to talk to about a little bit, but like, it gets messy, and you know you can't be that for that person anymore. So that's why the change in friendship goes away. And that's what the question about, like, can men and women be friends, which we are going to get into in a bit. And for some more breakdowns of stage and types of friendships, Social Science Libre text actually has some different types of stages for us about in friendships specifically. One of them is role delimited interaction. So you think that's the first stage. you're in the same class or you work together. So it's an acquaintance now, and you kind of have this now common ground that you are in the same situation. And you may or may not take that outside the space. Maybe you never talk about anything outside of that. I have Zumba friends like this. We talk about the immediate, oh, we had dance together. How are you? The superficial conversations that I'm like, I'm good with this. You could update me while we're here. The next one is the friendly relation. So you're still work involved, but maybe you are having a deeper conversation there, or you're purposely having more conversation and finding each other out in that class, at work, to find out how something happened or whatnot. You're talking more about the project. This is kind of like my example. I don't know why, but Courtney, who's been on the show before, whom I love, one of my coworkers from the Department of Juvenile Justice, she and I quickly became friends, and she is one of the most guarded people you'll ever meet. I am not as much, but she is definitely. And we kind of really came together because we were out in the field together, had to be trained. The way our job worked at the time was we traveled all over the state of Georgia doing different kinds of reviews and had to go through inspections with different places. And we were being trained, and she and I decided to go to lunch together because we had to. Like, there was really, either we're going to starve or we go get lunch. And we were in a small town, and both of us were people of color. And we're like, we're not going here by ourselves. What the hell? And we bonded over that. So it was kind of like that, okay, friendly relations, stepping a little bit outside of, getting to know, maybe we can be friends. That moves towards friendships. So we actually do take things out. So she and I started kind of like, hey, let's go meet up here. Hey, let's go do this after the fact. Let's go do this. And we started talking more and more. I'm like, all right, I like you. We got things in common. That goes into the nascent friendship, which start developing new norms. So you do things, you do traditions together, you do things outside of this. It's not about work anymore. You have friendships outside of work now. Now you get to be looming. And then you have stabilized friendships, which is the strengthening part. You really know each other. You get to know your friends' friends. You're really secure about that. You're watering and growing this friendship. I have so many metaphors apparently for friendship, Annie. But I get to meet your people and you get to meet my people, and maybe our people can all be friends. And there's no insecurity of being like, I'm going to be left out. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what they're talking about. You can be friends, and maybe that can be friends, which makes our friendship grow even stronger. Yeah? No? Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
And then sometimes there comes the after, because it can be an after an ending, and that's the waning of friendships. Here we have less impact on relationships towards an end, or just less in general. You become kind of go back to being an acquaintance. I'll tell you happy birthday. I'll see how you're doing every now and again. And there are several reasons for this. It includes physical distance, no more common interest, or that common interest is kind of gone or no longer relevant, and even conflicts, which I feel like the political atmosphere has really caused a lot of end of friendships.
Yep, more on that later.
Yeah. They also reported that some of these things can be gendered. So they write this. Interestingly, females and males in the study did report differences in the likelihood that these 5 reasons led to deterioration. Females reported that conflict was a greater reason for friendship deterioration than males, and males reporting not having many common interests was a greater reason for friendships deterioration than females. I feel like men are more forgiving in that route.
It could be that. I wonder if it's also, though, they don't talk as much about things that matter. Well, I don't want to say that, but maybe women are having those, I'm sharing secrets with you, are right. My life and myself and all of this. And so it hurts more when you have that conflict.
I mean, yeah, you're right. Because it says women make friends based on emotional and support, as were men made friends made of activity. So those are different for sure. So that means that, that would be, if your activity is no longer aligned, why would you be friends if that's the main reason that you be friends? So, that's common sense that I didn't put together till just now. Thank you for that.
Again, collaboration, coming together.
And somewhere along the lines, I also wanted to talk about the best friends forever type of conversation. But as in most things, sometimes friendships do come to an end. And we often see this with childhood friendships that don't last into adulthood. And some of the things that happen specifically, and this is from Highland Center for Healing.com, who talks about friendships. A lot of therapeutic sites are like, hey, let me help you through this friendship breakup. But they say this is some of the reasons that this happens. One may be shifting priorities. So as you grow older, whether it's your interests. So like I had friends who were really into tennis. Guess who was not? Me. I was a drama nerd. And so, and with that also I had to get a job, and they kept doing activities. They were able to bond more than myself because I was doing a completely different activity. So, and money was important because I needed a car. No one was buying me a car. Geography, man, distance does hurt a little bit.
It does.
It hurts my feelings. Why'd you have to move?
Yep. Yeah.
Then changing social circles. Again, that's that whole level of like, and not to say that people are popular versus, but like we had definitely people who I was friends with went into band, and band became their life. I went into drama. Things happen. Things shift. Was that you, Anney? Was band your life?
No, but it just makes me laugh. I know we've talked about this before, but in my experience, band in my school was like the thing people made fun of. And I've learned from you, it was like the thing.
So previously, yes. Previously, people could be made fun of, but like there were such a big entourage of band people that they outdid all the other groups. So there was no bullying that.
Okay. It's just funny. Saying. Every time I hear you talk about it, I'm like, that was not my experience, but yeah.
Well, and our people were like, like even my niece was band leader. That was a big deal.
Oh yeah.
And they got led to, doing the parades in New York because they won championships upon championships. When that's the only championships that occur in your school, you're not going to be low on the totem pole.
Yeah, that's true. That is what happened. True.
Like, I'm just saying. And then there's connections just change. Your connections are no longer what it is. It used to be, but no longer is. Tech could actually be a reason that you lose connections, that you lose friendships. I know you would think more, but whether it's like things that you see, things that you post, and I've seen this, and it has made me lose friends.
Yes. Oh, yeah. And we also are going to talk about that more, but it's a double-edged sword, the technology part, because it allows you to keep in touch more with people, even who are close to you, but especially with people who are far. But also it does allow you to see more than maybe you might have, and you're like, okay, no, I don't. Okay,
I see what you liked. That was not cute.
Yeah, never mind. It's all right.
And then there's also like just self-awareness and growth. You realize you're two separate people, and this is very different, and what you like versus what they like is no longer, it is what it is. That happened, I feel like, outside of college. Right outside of college, I realized, I think this was just because we were at UGA together, or whatever college you were at together. And then, of course, life transitions in general. Life sucks, or sometimes it's good, and it changes friendships.
Yes, it does.
Mm-hmm. But with all of that, because I feel like as a child, you could lose friends. It was still painful, but it were more likely to make friends than adulthood. But is there actually a difference between making friends as an adult versus as children? Anney?
Yes, there is. And we will go through, some of it relates to what you were just talking about. This has been the subject of a lot of conversation in recent years, especially around the difficulty of making and keeping friendships as an adult, especially close friendships. Because you and I talked about this. I'm actually really good at making friends, not necessarily close friends, but I can make a friend. I also found a really snarky Reddit subreddit that was like, it's not hard. Why are we talking about this?
Well, damn.
I know. Okay. I was like, okay.
Do you have friends? Because I have a question.
Yeah, me too. There are a lot of reasons for why it is harder as an adult to make friends. For one, there are a lot more responsibilities demanding your time. For most adults, a job, maybe a spouse, maybe kids, maybe an ailing family member, bills to pay, different schedules to balance. My goodness. And honestly, people might just be tired. And friendships do take time and intent. And if you don't have that time and intent, it's just not going to last, or not going to be very serious or a close friendship. And yeah, we do, as we get older, a lot of us do intentionally cut down, unintentionally or intentionally cut down on our number of close friends. We categorize friendships into passive, which would be like, I see you at the office and that's it. You're a pleasant person, but we're not going beyond that, versus active friendships, which are the ones that you are working to maintain. Author Mel Robbins has spoken extensively about the difficulty of making and keeping new friends as an adult, and even has a 3-pillared theory as to why. And she explains that around 20, we go through a pretty big life transition. Previously, we were generally surrounded by people our age doing similar things with similar schedules. After that, things can really shift. People move away, they change, priorities change. Someone you once had so much in common with as a kid is now someone you might struggle to relate to because your experiences are so different, and perhaps your values too. It can be very sad and painful. I did lose a lot of friends as a kid, and then, when I went to college, and I remember just sobbing, because you have that realization of like, I'm probably never going to see this person again. And we were so close. I remember when I was in China, I had this really close friend group, and I just knew we're not, I'll try, but we're not, it's not going to be this again. It's not going to be this again. We're going our separate ways. And you recognize it. That's part of life, but it is a sad part of life.
Oh my goodness. I remember in like 6th grade, by this point, I had lost 4 of my best friends. And they were truly my best friends. And one of them was really traumatic fashion. And the friend that I had all the way through high school and college, and almost in adulthood for the most part, and then things fell apart, I made her promise that she wouldn't leave me because it was so traumatic. And I just bawled. I just remember that moment. Like, please tell me, if you're going to be my friend, promise me you're not going to leave me. She kept that promise. Things fell apart later, but for the remainder of school, we were great.
Yeah. Oh, but it does hurt. It's really painful. But okay, so what are the 3 pillars that Robbins described for keeping friends as an adult? It's kind of what you were talking about, Samantha. Proximity, timing, and energy. When it comes to proximity, she cites research that concluded it takes 50 hours to become a casual friend and 200 hours to become a close friend. If you aren't physically close to each other, it's hard to put in that amount of time. On top of that, being physically close to people can be critical to making new friends. So like when you're switching jobs or you're moving or you're starting a new class, that can be really important. Timing involves priorities and schedules. If those don't align, the timing might not work out for that friendship. Energy has to do with how you vibe with someone. It's not necessarily, I'm tired, I don't have energy. It's kind of like, is your energy matching mine? Is it a supportive, nurturing friendship? Robbins also says that friendships can change and go quiet and then come back. I certainly have a lot of friends like this, so that makes complete sense to me. In Robbins' words, let them live their lives, let them change, let them meet new friends, let them not invite you, let them go quiet, and let them come back. Sometimes people are just in different parts of their life, and hopefully you kind of reconnect later. So then, how do we make friends? If it's something you want, Robbins advises you do it intentionally, taking action instead of waiting for it to happen. A lot of people are kind of like, almost like in a romantic sense, oh, when I meet the right person, I'll know. But Robbins is like, no, you've got to get out there and intentionally cultivate a friendship, being consistent, finding people on the same general stage of life or with similar interests. And that's what I used to tell people is, I don't know how great of advice this is, but find like a similar, like if you are into an activity, go do a class of that activity. At the very least, you'll meet people who are you share that with.
This is also a part of like horror movies too.
Oh,
doing that.
You think I don't know that, Samantha?
I had to put that in here somewhere. Okay, keep going.
Yes. Also, a note, we're not really going to go into this, but social anxiety can absolutely impact everything we're talking about. So
I'm making a face.
That advice of like, go out and take a class for not everybody, that is going to be an easy thing that they can do.
I feel like the older you get, the harder it gets.
Mm-hmm.
Because it feels like some of those activities that you love your age may seem like you shouldn't be doing this.
Yes. I think about that all the time. I think about that with Dragon Con. I'm like, should I still be cosplaying as a character? I don't know.
There's a hip hop class that I was like, oh, it's for beginners, it's for adults. And I'm like, but all these kids, they all look like 20s. And there'll be like this old woman coming in and they're going to, if they think I'm good, I'm going to be the token old person that they highlight to be like, see, she can do it. So can you. You know, like you get extra special treatment because you're old. I'm like, well, damn.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
So that's a fear.
Yeah, I get you.
Don't get into that. I love all that because, yes, like there's so much to the science because it's not been until recently that they actually decided they wanted to study friendship. And I think it may have something to do with like the conversation about loneliness epidemic, which we're going to talk very slightly about later. But like people understanding it is hard and it should be acknowledged that not everyone can do this. Not being friends with someone can do this. And whether it's, again, like my own thing about like, I need depth. If we don't have depth in our friendship, and also a sense of humor, yes. But like both of those things are very important for me to have a friendship with you. Like can you understand my sense of humor? Can I understand your sense of humor? Can you go deep with me in like this conversation and be able to like work through some really traumatic feels, whether it's about the world, the country, or ourselves, but then also come out with it like and joke about it still.
Yeah, and we didn't even get into this. I think we've talked about it in previous episodes, but there have been studies about the positive, measurable health impacts of friendship, beneficial.
Yep.
So it is something that is not frivolous. It is something that is really important and does impact your health.
It does.
Mm-hmm.
It's like one of the things that it does agree upon, and we're going to again get into this bit about like the whole male loneliness epidemic is it is actually killing men. And not the way you would think. It's not because, but because of the loneliness, rather because they are so unwilling to see that it needs to be a thing, that friendship should be a thing. Ooh.
Yeah.
Moving on. Sorry. But with that, speaking of men, can men and women be friends, Anney? We've talked about this a few times, haven't we?
We talked about it in our When Harry Met Sally. Is that it?
And you know what? That is one of the biggest references for everyone's conversation in this topic. Like, that is the reference that people point to being like, but they can't.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all, every single reference when we were looking at this up was like the Harry Met Sally trope. Can you be friends? And again, there is that little, like we just talked about before, like that what men see as value of friendship or how to make friends with specific genders. That is a conversation. And again, that's the patriarchy in itself and why we need to break that down and misogyny and all these things. That's what's really killing men.
Yeah.
Hello. Yep. I said it out loud. But with that, in this conversation, like in society, can they be friends? Can this be true for adults? Because of course, as children, yes, but also there's still this layer of like gendered sexualization on specific young girls that is like, oh, is that your boyfriend? And they can't be friends. Like they're being taught at a young age that if you are with the opposite sex in any shape or form, then that means that's your little boyfriend, not your friend. A little boyfriend. And then I love the kids who are like, no, that's my friend. Get it together. Those are my favorite kids, by the way. But also, like, we have references like Mike Pence. Like, that came up a couple of times about him saying that he will never go to dinner alone or lunch alone with a woman because that's disrespectful to his wife, to mama. He calls him mama, which is...
it's a mother, isn't it?
Is it mother? I'm sorry. I was trying to make it cute.
I think it's even creepier.
Yeah, grimace. But yeah, that's that question of like, can they actually be friends? So there are a few articles. It's like Berkeley actually talks about this as an article as well, talking about whether or not it can be. And that in this article is from like the Los Angeles Tribunes. A journalist wrote about her platonic friendships with men she's known from childhood and what worked and all of these things about how, yes, these are okay, but it doesn't seem right. Like having friends as a child that are men or younger, or I guess even pre-husband is okay, but after the fact, it's not okay. And I get that. And I don't get that. So there is this level as a person who has been in a partnership for now 7 years with a cis male, like there is that conversation of like, all right, I don't want them to feel insecure. So how do I make this happen? And things like iHeart, when I started working, I made friends with a lot of dudes because we have like our producer was a dude, like all these things. But with that, it was on that same level that he should be able to be friends with my partner. So I get this. There's just like moment of like, but is that because the patriarchy has set up so much that you have to be careful? I have to be careful as a woman to not be accused of that type of interest.
Yeah, well, we've talked about this before. I've joked a friend made up a business card for me that said she's not flirting, she's just nice. That is another unfortunate thing of the patriarchy.
Yeah.
That kind of relates to what we're talking about, where men have these conversations with women they wouldn't have with men. And then they think it's like, oh, she really gets me, which I might, but that doesn't mean I'm romantically into you.
Right.
But I saw that too when I was running into a lot of research about like, once you get married, it drops off. The kind of friendship with someone of the opposite sex drops off. And we've talked about this before. I've become extremely wary of this because I trusted, oh, you're in a stable relationship, oh, you're married, or whatever it is. And then it turns out that was not the safe zone I thought that it was.
Right.
So it's really frustrating because I would like to live in a world where I have plenty of male friends that I think, that's not what's happening. But I've become so wary because it's happened that I'm like, I'm just gonna back off and let you instigate everything. I'm not gonna instigate anything.
And that is definitely a conversation because I'm like you. When I was single, I mean, even now, like I would think you're safe because you're in a relationship, you're married. Why would you be interested in me? You have a wonderful wife or you have a wonderful partner. Like, I don't understand. And then be shocked when things would happen and be like, what is this? What is this? Why is this a thing? And because I was shocked, because I was so unprepared and really didn't think that was a possibility, like I would be flummoxed. You know what I mean? And not respond the way it should be. Like, I should respond and be like, well, this is awkward. And also, like, if you're friends with them. And that also comes to the point, like, when I was younger and friends with, like, we were all single, I had a good mix of male and female friends. Like, we all came together, women and men. And when those men would start relationships, I had to back off. It made me very sad. And not because I didn't think that they trusted them, but because I understood, again, as we talked about, like when it comes to, it seems, men and women, and men actually allow for women to be a support system for them as in friends, that, steps into a boundary of like, okay, are you having an emotional affair? Where are we on this line?
Yeah, I have found myself regretting looking back where I'm like, I think that was an emotional affair, and I feel horrible about it. I didn't realize that that's what was going on.
Right.
And I've told you this before. This is like the silliest thing. But one time I was like, I'm asexual, as if that means I can't do anything.
You can't have an emotional affair. Maybe that probably was the best way to have an affair with you. Not that you were doing that. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But all those things are so hard. But the thing is, there's also really big research. So The Economist wrote about this, about how important it is to having intergroup relationships. So it talks about the intergroup contact theory, that the more you are desensitized to that level of sexualization or misogyny or patriarchy, that you can have friends, and it helps you grow even better. And also teaches you about things like the patriarchy and why it's bad. And it helps like decipher through your past codes that really had a lot of biases when you start like, like I see a lot of men who don't understand some of these ideals until they have girlfriends or they have daughters or they have, like that type of level. But if you can go ahead and get that early, by having empathy and having someone you care about that might be an underlying victim in some of these things, it really does open up for an individual to learn this kind of compassion that we are severely lacking as a society. That this idea that this contact really does bring in a positive interaction and then also lessens the prejudice. So this is what it says specifically. The idea that positive interactions between different groups can reduce the prejudice they feel about one another. It has usually been applied to ethnic or religious groups, but may work for men and women. So they're talking specifically about like these inner groups, that if we have more of that, if we actually allow for true friendship, and we're not talking about sexual relationships, we're talking about friendships, that really does help lessen the prejudice that is oftentimes there, the sexism, the misogyny, the abuse in general, in understanding that when we have compassion for that, that really opens up so much more. So something that we desperately need is really being stifled by the patriarchy and misogyny that is overwhelming.
Yeah. And I'm sure a lot of listeners can relate. I have a lot of men in my life that I have gone through this and continue to go through this where I'm like, no, what you're saying, you really need to learn or listen to me, or because what you're saying is not accurate. It does not reflect the experience of women. And they have, to their credit, most of the men I'm talking about have grown
They're starting to understand.
Mm-hmm.
They're starting to understand.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what we're also seeing when it comes to like immigration stuff right now. More and more people, as they're being affected, they're like, oh,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
This is the find out stage, but like understanding that had this been a thing, had we been more open and being with different groups of people and being in different communities and seeing it from a different point of view, what could happen in that inner group concept there. Man, I feel like it's too late, but it's not. It's not. Young kids. But can you be friends with an ex? You know how I have feelings, Anney.
I know you do.
I know, I have feelings, and it kind of goes back and forth in this level. So do you consider yourself still friends with your ex?
I consider myself an acquaintance with one and a friend with one. The rest of them I never talk to, so.
Okay. So percentage-wise, what percentage of exes are you friends with? Yeah, I need specifics here.
Oh, okay. Let me think. Oh my gosh. This is complicated because I get asked on oopsie dates all the time.
No, so when we say ex, we're literal relationship. Like you have an established relationship.
We broke up.
Yes.
Okay.
Not just an accidental one-time date.
Okay.
Or 4-time date for you. Oh, no.
Oh, no. I think it's 7 or 8. 7 or 8.
Out of...
Oh, that's my total. That's all of it. 2 out of
8. Okay, so we're saying what? 25% rate. Success rate of friendships.
Okay.
I hold at like 0.1%, but I haven't had too many relationships.
Okay.
No, so actually probably higher percentage-wise, to be fair.
I feel like I had to do my number, and now you're trying to escape.
So no, because I've not, like I've told you, like my most serious relationship is my current relationship. So
yeah.
But like the 2 before, so I've only had 3, and I'm friends with 1 now-ish. I'm acquaintances with 1-ish.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So 33%. My percentage is higher. Number is lower.
Look at that. Math is fun, isn't it?
No, it is not. So this was a study that Rebecca Griffith did and told Live Science, essentially, that said that it's a very pervasive phenomenon, the friendships, and that 60% of people remain friends after a romantic split. So that's pretty high. Now, I think romantic split, it may be more like yours, like they had a a moment and then they're like, never mind. But they weren't actually in a relationship, while 22% actually are still friends with their partners. Now, I have seen more trends of like parents who are having to co-parent, trying to learn to be friends and having to be friends, whether they wanted to or not. There's a few reasons why they did this. And again, that's one of those reasons. Others, it does say that they still want to have sex with them, so they remain friends, which I feel like is a disaster.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just, odd. Some of it is because of mutual friendships. They don't want to lose friends, so they have to kind of remain in that circle together, which is super awkward, which is why I don't like my friends dating each other. I need that to be noted. I get very upset about this, especially if I know it's not going to go anywhere. I'm like, why?
Mm-hmm.
But then also they talked about, like, again, like pets. Pets is a new thing because they like, it's kind of like children. They're not at all. I'm not equating that the same thing, but I'm just saying like the love and wanting to care and getting attached to the pets. That's another big reason, and I get it.
Yeah, I've read more and more about that too.
But yeah, so like it's kind of, there's a lot of reasons why you should be. Again, I go back to the realm of like, you need to go away. I need you to be on the island of exes. I don't need to see you. I don't care about what you're doing. Congratulations on your 4th kid and 5th shoe pairing, couple shoes, whatever. I don't want to know. So that's how I land on this. But again, like if having children, having a pet, even, I feel like there's going to be if you truly had a good bond. Like if it's a whole other traumatic reason, cut them out. Do it. Yeah. Get that restraining order, whatever you need to do, boo. I did see a few things where the Black community talk about their friendship dynamic versus their friendship with people outside of the Black community. And there's definitely a lot of questions in conversations. I saw a whole thing on TikTok about the Asian American community talking about if you're not from that specific area and try to make friends with them, you're not going to be welcome. If there's any Bay Area Asian people who want to tell me about this, talk to me, you can. But that was one of the big things that I have actually seen where in the Asian community, because I'm adopted, I am not welcome. And they wouldn't say that to me, but there are obvious looks of, oh, that level of tone that I'm like, okay, well, I guess I can't be friends with you. Damn. Yeah. Anyway, but there definitely is a conversation about the differences and the changes. And unfortunately, it is what it is. There's a decrease in diverse friend groups because of the administration and the times that we are living in. And a lot of reasons come out to play. They talk about distrust in the white communities. We talk about white feminist women. I know it's not y'all. I know it's not most of our listeners, but even with that level of like, they might not understand, they might not see it for themselves, but the amount of unlearning that has to happen. And I say that for myself, living in white culture. Like I had to do a lot of unlearning. Like you can see it from our first book club where we did white fragility, and I have many regrets. But because it was recommended, like I go on like the defensive immediately. I was like, but my therapist who was Black, she's the one that recommended to me. But she did it because we needed to ease in. Like I can guarantee she's like, y'all aren't ready to hear the absolute truth. So you need to be eased in by someone who's going to hold your hand. And that's kind of that level of like, oh, right. And the unlearning is a lifetime of things that we have to unlearn when we're not like a part of a culture. And because of that, like we see that there's a level of distrust because a lot of people don't want to admit. And it took us a minute to figure out, oh yeah, that's not necessarily the best. Because I'm still kind of like, obviously I'm still kind of like, but it's true. And so there's this level of like distrust. I will say, I have told many people, I am more scared of white men than I have of any other group of peoples. Because there's so much context and connotation, especially today in the state of Georgia, that happens. That it's like, all right, once upon a time, you could have told me everything's a melting pot, but it's not. And we don't like that term either, but, at least that had a little more understanding. than when we are today. Then again, also that microaggression that continues today, that continues about whether or not people are mad about Asian stuff in general, the whole thing that happened with COVID, the microaggressions at level that happened with the Black community, DEI conversations that are happening today, celebrating the end of DEI, not understanding that diversity, equity, and inclusion means everyone. That level of understanding is okay. And because of an Asian dude coming after affirmative action, there's a distrust of that. So it's absolutely understandable. And then also this conversation about childhood and how that it is taught, obviously. I feel like these are obvious thoughts, but we don't really think on it. We don't really talk about it scientifically. And there's bigger conversations in what that actually means and what that actually looks like. So on a 2016 NYU study, it shows that teachers play a big part in this. And we know there's a lot of cutesy conversations about how teachers are it's such an influence and they do so much, but they really, really do impact a lot of what the culture is going through today. And it can also discourage young children in making friends outside of their specific group or ethnicity. That when you're kids, you don't know. And we've seen many moments where children don't know. They are taught that this could be wrong for some unreal reason, not realistic reasons. So here's the actual quote. It says, although research shows that children with greater access to diverse peers are more likely to form interracial friendships, our findings suggest that access to diversity alone is not sufficient for fostering these friendships, and teachers may play a role. Studies show that most childhood friendships are formed in classrooms, but children tend to form friendships with others of their own race or ethnicity, with interracial friendships decreasing across ages and grades. Yet for nearly half a century, educators and scholars have argued that friendships across race have social and emotional and academic benefits. And of course, we're not saying that all teachers are being divisive on purpose or that they're all encouraging segregation in friendships. But it isn't surprising to note that teachers do hold a lot of influence. And if there is a prejudice within teachers or they show different treatment based on race or socioeconomic status, then it wouldn't be hard to see that that would influence children they are supposed to be educating. So even whether it's making fun of a name, refusing to say a name out loud, refusing to say a name correctly, that really does influence children to other another child. And I don't think we think on that enough and how severe those types of microaggression can be when it comes to the environment you're creating in your classroom. Again, this is not all teachers, but this is also why when you have an amazing teacher, it can change. It can change your perception of so many things. You're like, wow, okay, you made this where it made it easy for me to have friends without feeling like my otherness is going to get in the way, or that there is an otherness to get in the way, So there's so much to that point and to that level. And I will say that my kindergarten teacher, I came in not knowing English. I can't say that I have any memory of her denigrating me or making fun of me at any point, but I think I do. But what I do have memories of her celebrating the things that I was doing. You know what I mean? So that did not make me feel shamed necessarily for being there. Instead, I felt like, okay, I'm learning. And I learned very quickly to acclimate in language in itself, because for 6 months, I was not speaking English. So for me to come in, and my mom specifically requested this teacher, I'm sure I frustrated the hell out of her because I don't think I was her favorite. Don't get me wrong. But she never did anything to me or ostracize me from the other people being my friend. There could be a level of fetishism in that, but that's a whole different conversation. But I could make friends. So that was an amazing thing, as well as the fact that I don't have any memories of being shamed. And those are things that would haunt me for sure. And at never point did I feel like that I couldn't, be another person. Did I want to be white? Of course. That came with my own insecurities. But the teacher was not the reason. Miss Hilda, I remember you. But that's the thing, is like that kind of environment, I made sure to help me instead of hinder me in that level. So that's a huge conversation that I don't think we're having enough of, about how big of an influence a teacher has in friendship making, and that being said, growing into adults with kindness and compassion and less prejudice.
Yeah, absolutely. And clearly, there are so many avenues of friendship to discuss. And we've only gotten through half of the ones we wanted to. So this is going to be a two-parter. This is part one. In the next one, we're going to talk about all kinds of other things. We have so many things about friendship to talk about. So please come back and listen to that one. If you have any thoughts about this episode, let us know. You can email us at hello@stuffmonevertoldyou.com. You can find us on Blue Sky at Mom Stuff Podcast, or on Instagram and TikTok at Stuff One Never Told You. We're also on YouTube, and we have new merchandise at Cotton Bureau, and we have a book you can get wherever you get your books. Thanks as always to our super producer Christina, executive producer Maya, and our contributor Joey.
Thank you.
And thanks to you for listening. Stuff One Never Told You is a production by iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, you can check out the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your favorite shows.